what? We're not going to go ahead and take a break now. We'll just go ahead and roll into the next session because we're a little behind schedule. And we are going to change the schedule a little bit. If you saw our schedule, the Master Gardeners have agreed to let me bump them up until after lunch. And part of that is because we're kind of behind schedule, and Rusty Grant, our next speaker, needs to head out for a funeral late this afternoon. And so we're going to let him go next. I'll introduce Rusty just very briefly. Rusty Grant's a good friend of mine. He's pastor up in Monroe, Louisiana, and actually he was not on the schedule a beginning when we first announced the conference, but I saw him at a conference. We're on the board of a conference up in Jackson that we have every year. I saw him several weeks ago, and he said him and his family were going to come down, and so I put him on the schedule. Not only that, he's also going to be preaching for us tomorrow morning at church at 9 o'clock. Actually, even in his sermon, is going to be in keeping with the theme of the weekend, and so I would love to invite y'all all to be here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock to hear Rusty in church. But for now, he's going to come and tell us what they're doing at their homestead up in Monroe. Come on, Rusty.
Well, good morning. My name is Rusty. My wife, Nancy, is right over there. She's handing out some stuff, and then our son, Asher. And as Don said, I do pastor a church up in Monroe. And we actually live in Farmerville, which is about 30 minutes north of Monroe, almost into Arkansas. And so we heard about the conference, wanted to come down, and so we appreciate Don asking us to speak briefly this morning. Just want to give a shout out, I guess, that's what the young folks still say, to the Master Gardeners down here. My mom and dad are Master Gardeners in Monroe, and so we are very much in keeping with that. As a matter of fact, our son, Asher, when he was wee little, would go with my mom and dad to the greenhouse and plant and move stuff, and he's probably more qualified as a master gardener in terms of his hours that he's got doing that than I am for sure. So, but I want to let you guys say hello to y'all and to everybody that's gone before us. To Kimmett, did I say that right? Okay, appreciate you, brother, what you said. A lot of what you said is a lot of what we are attempting to do. Full disclosure, we're on the front end of this regenerative farming journey. We bought a place going on 3 years ago, a house up in Farmerville, and it came with 10 acres. And so we actually have a pretty good sized plot of land. But we've been kind of regenerative people for a long time. We have been concerned about what we eat and where it comes from and all the stuff that's involved with that. And so really kind of what I wanted to talk about, what we wanted to talk about today was why are we doing what we're doing? And we could talk about nuts and bolts and those kinds of things. I'd like to say that I'm a certified chicken tractor expert, right? I'm a certified tractor guy. We're using the tractor style coops. We're doing regenerative, we're moving them. We've got layers currently. Now we've got meat birds coming for the spring. And so we are going to put those on pasture-raised because we've got the room to do it. But why we're doing this is we think it's important to know where our food's coming from. Real quick story. We were on vacation back in October, and Nancy gave me a book. She said, I want you to read this book while we're on vacation. And I read the book. I don't even remember the name of the book, but I was so angry about the food system after reading that book. I said, I'm never going to eat anything from Walmart ever again. And I pretty well stayed to that. But we have believed in what we call eating local for a long time. And one of the things that Nancy has given to y'all is a listing of local farms that, we just found them on the internet. Now, you probably know them better than we do. You may know, I hope you would know whether, okay, this is a good one, and this is a really good one, and this one is, well, maybe not. So, but we believe in eating local. And what we mean by that is, in our area, and Nancy, correct me if I'm wrong, because she usually keeps up with this a lot better than I do, there's probably close to 24. Is that fair to say? Regenerative farms of some kind in our area? Okay, well, let's just say 18. There's 18 different regenerative type farms in our area. Everything from chickens. Everybody's got chickens, and there's eggs out the wazoo, but there are beef producers up in our area. There's a farm about 15 to 20 minutes from us that does raw milk. We can get raw milk there. She's making all kinds of sour cream and cottage cheeses and all kinds of homemade stuff there. They're doing some meads and some other things. The people that we buy beef from raise pork, and so we can get pasture-raised pork, we can get pasture-raised grass-fed and grass-finished beef. There's a couple farms close to us that are raising meat birds, and that's where we've gotten our meat birds in the past. Although we have a little bit of a difference of opinion than they do, because they send their meat birds off to a processor. I think they're probably still under the 1,000 bird limit. They're not producing more than that, but they send them off to a processor. We have a fundamental commitment to do on-farm processing because we think that it actually makes the meat better. The birds are not under stress. Going to a processor, do it there. We know how they're being processed, and that maybe makes sense, maybe it doesn't make sense. Salatin talks about commercial processing. The other book that I was reading talks about commercial processing. You read about some of what's happening in commercial chicken processors, you probably wouldn't want to eat it anyway. All right, some of the stuff that's going on. So we're wanting to try to stay where we know who's doing what. And so that's why we've started our own homestead. And just to describe our own homestead, we're not trying to sell anything. We have people who have said, we'll come help on harvest day, and we'll work with them on if they come to help us harvest, and we're still going to have to cover feed costs on chicken, but they get a cut rate for helping us harvest. We've got another friend of ours that actually runs a restaurant. It's a holistic food restaurant, non-GMO, gluten-free restaurant. They raise their own birds, and we've talked to them and gone and talked with them, and they've given us some ideas about all that. But what we're trying to do is, on the harvesting of ourselves, is produce the best tasting, most tender chicken that we can possibly do. And so it's a lot of low stress. Don't want the birds to be stressed. Every time they get stressed, and it toughens the meat. So pasture raised, we're doing non-organic, we're doing organic, non-GMO feeds, which are a little bit more expensive, but that's kind of the direction we wanted to go. We're going to do self-processing on farm and try to produce some really good birds. And for what we're doing, we're not parting it out, we're not cutting it in half, we're not quartering it, it's just a whole bird. And so in that whole bird, you get the feet if you want them. If you don't want them, we're going to keep them and make chicken stock out of it. The whole bird, and just trying to, it's a good bird. I'll tell you a story about that. We, a couple months ago, one Saturday, and I don't know if y'all are like us, but Saturday we wake up, and one of the first questions that happens on Saturday morning is, what are we going to have for dinner, right? And so we were just kind of kicking around ideas for dinner, and I just got this hankering for grilled chicken. We hadn't had chicken in a while, and so I said, why don't we grill some chicken? Just get some quarters, leg quarters or whatever, and we'll grill chicken. And so Nancy said, well, the farm that we usually get stuff from has got a sale day, so she went over there. Well, anyway, long story short, she came home and she brought home leg quarters. Well, that's not my favorite. I prefer the breast quarters, but she brought the leg quarters. And I said, well, I didn't say anything about it. That's what she brought. I'm going to be a good, dutiful husband, not say anything. We'll just cook them. So I cooked them. It's the best thing I've ever eaten in my entire life. I mean, hands down, best thing. And for me, that was the moment I said, you know what, we're going to start raising our own. We already had layers, we've got layers, we're doing that. Let's just get some meat birds. Devoured Salatin's books, all 4 of them in about 2 days, and we're off on this journey. And so there's a lot of things that we have kind of anticipated because we've worked on the wisdom of others. We've talked to several people that have farms. We've read the books, we've done the research. That only gets you so far. I mean, until you start doing it, then you can know a lot of stuff, but once you do it, you really know it. The other guy, Salatin's one, Justin Rhodes is another. He's kind of quirky. He kind of gets through the quirkiness. He kind of reminds me, y'all remember the painter guy on PBS, the Happy Little Road? Well, Justin Rhodes is kind of a happy little farm guy. But he's got a lot of good insights, and we we've benefited from a lot of the stuff he's done. We've looked at the Salatin tractors, which I don't want to bend over and break my back at 2 foot, and that's what everybody else has told us. If you're kind of interested, just a little side note on tractors. Joel Salatin is in Virginia, and the summers in Virginia are different than the summers in Louisiana. And the 2 foot aluminum top tractor that he does, everybody's told us that they tried it and their chicken's baked in not even just the hottest part of the summer, but in moderate summer, early summer. And so in this area, most everybody's gone to more of what's called a Siskovich type tractor. Got a top on it. Well, I just got through building one for our meat birds, and I made it tall enough that I can wear my big farm hat and walk inside without bending over. And so hardware mesh around all 4 sides. They're up about 3 foot with a peaked roof, so I can get good airflow going through it because you want air on those birds. And it's really kind of more designed for a hot weather tractor. So that's a consideration. But Salatin has got good information. Rhodes has got good information. There's more out there, I'm sure. Those are the 2 that we're most familiar with. We did give you a shameless advertisement for Chick Coop. If you want to spend a lot of money on a really, really nice chicken coop, that I would suggest them. We've got one. They're great people. We've kind of become friends with them. They've helped us along our egg layer journey to kind of answer some questions there. But they asked if we would pass the word along. And I do believe, if I remember correctly, Eric told me that they already have a Chick coop down here in the area somewhere. So they have brought it down here before. But that's, if you want a Taj Mahal of chicken coops, that's the way to go. You can build them a lot cheaper, I promise you that. Just doing this journey because we want to not only support local farms, I want to emphasize that. Know your local farmers. Find out where your local guys are. You've already been introduced to one today. If you didn't know Kim and Tammy, so now you know them, but know where you can get meat birds. Know where you can get your pasture-raised beef. Know where you can you get raw milk in Mississippi? No.
You got to go through someone who's a herd share.
Oh, you do the herd share? Okay.
That's right.
Louisiana just opened that market. Less than a year ago, maybe? Something like that? It's still for animal consumption. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
That's right.
But there's not any legislators in here, is there? But anyhow, know where you get your local food and support your local guys. It's interesting, you were talking about eggs and the price of eggs. We've done kind of local small business stuff in other venues. We have run a custom sawmill for a number of years and done custom woodwork and those kinds of things. It's interesting, we found out that the stuff that we were selling in that side of our business that competed with commercial tomato steaks, so we'll just call it what it is, that our prices for a while seemed to be a little bit higher than what you could buy commercially. But then in the last years, commercial prices have gone up such that the homestead's pricing stayed the same, and we were actually selling stuff cheaper than what they could buy at the big box stores. And that's what I saw with the eggs. Eggs were running $3.50, $4 a dozen forever.
Yeah.
And then commercially, from homestead folks, small farms, and then it went up to like $6, $7, $8 a dozen here about a year ago. And most of the homestead folks kept it at about $4 a dozen. So you could buy pasture-raised, good eggs. You know where they're coming from a local farmer, half of what you can buy at the store. That's amazing. That's a win-win for me, as far as I'm concerned. But know where your local farms are, and that's what we're trying to do. We've been a beneficiary by buying from local farms for a long time. Now, because we have the ability, we want to contribute to that local farm network, building the networks that you were talking about with people and just supporting that. What else were we going to talk about? There was something else that came across my mind, but it went, as soon as it came in, it went out. Oh, well, yeah, I was going to mention that. On our homestead, we've planted a peach orchard because we're kind of up in the area where over around Ruston, there's a lot of peach orchards, so the ground is really good for peaches. So we've planted peaches. We're working towards a raised bed garden for us in a spot on our property. Fig trees. My family has raised fig trees in and around the Monroe area forever. So we're going to start growing some figs. Maybe we've got the room, and although we're planting the peaches really more for us and our friends, there are several farmers markets around that if we have excess that we could sell peaches. And we might could even put the figs in where I'm thinking about putting them. We might could even do that to where we had figs and could sell those at farmers market also. So there's a lot of opportunities, we think, to kind of maybe not only feed our family and help feed others, friends of ours, but then maybe sell some on the side. But that's not really what we're trying to do. We're just trying to feed ourselves, and it's really good food. So I don't know. I don't know if I said anything that was helpful, or if you got questions. Yeah.
Are you trying to do the peaches organically?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a treatment for borers that's effective?
I don't know. I can't answer the question directly. What I will say is most of the stuff that we do, like for example, one of my trees has developed ants. I know I've got to do something with those ants for us to kill the tree.
You use spinosad for that, though.
What?
Spinosad.
Well, I've been using diatomaceous earth right now.
Well, spinosad, you can get it in a bait. So we'll take that into consideration.
Okay. All right.
There's a product called Come and Get It. It's a fertile brand product, so you'll only find it at instant dealers. You won't find it in
So Rusty, you said peach orchard. How many trees?
12.
12?
Yeah. Everybody keeps telling me start small because I'm one of those. I did construction management for years before I became a pastor, and so I was reading the book a number of years ago, 12 Habits of Highly Effective People, and my vision a lot of times outruns my ability. You understand? So, the Lord has blessed me with a very gracious wife who keeps saying, okay, that sounds good, but let's come back over here. And so, anyhow, yeah, we just planted actually in the fall, 12, I think there's 3 different varieties of peaches that grow well in our area. We got them from a local nursery. And so, we're still probably another 2 years out from really getting peaches. But we're expecting good things, and they look good so far. The one tree that's got the ants, we're working on that. But to answer the question about non-chemicals, what I've found in our limited experience is if you're just patient and keep at it, you can take care of it, like the ants. But it's not just going to be a one and done kind of deal. Right? That makes sense.
Yeah, ants. Yeah, the borers is a harder problem.
Yeah.
I was wondering. I was trying to.
I don't know yet.
They're small.
From your experience.
Yeah. As limited as it is, I'm not sure. I might be calling you.
Yeah, we're
I
newbies.
just drove up by Mitchell's the other day. I was bringing my grandson to go look at colleges, and I went to school in Ruston.
Okay.
Mitchell's peach orchard doesn't look the same as it used to.
Yeah.
Not by far.
Yeah, there's a lot of things up there that don't look like they used
The
to.
whole town.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I passed out this sheet, and y'all may know about some of these farms already because we were talking about local. I wanted to pull up just on an internet search to see what kind of local farms y'all had around this area. So that's what this is, just the information sheet for. And I grew up on a farm in Texas, actually, 90 acres or so near Waco in central Texas. My parents, grandparents did gardening, and we had cattle. We'd pick one that my dad would take to the processor, and we'd have beef and that kind of thing. I never thought about it, and we, grass-fed, pasture-raised, that wasn't a thing, that you, terms you used back then. So we just did that. So I had that experience, but didn't really learn the things, but I'm a country girl. I grew up on the farm, so God left that in my heart. And so as we settled down more and stuff, we have the land, and so now we're trying to go back to that and to do things and to be good stewards of what the Lord's given us with the 10 acres that we do have. The only thing that I kind of want to leave y'all with, and y'all probably know tons more than I really do and stuff, but one thing that I've learned, God has given us his creation, and as we've learned, we need to take dominion over it and everything. And part of that, this is more on the work aspect, but then we see that in Scripture. But very soon after that, he's making the institution of the family. So there's that tie of work and your family. And as Chris said last night, really bringing your family, your children along to learn the things and to work with you and together and to have those good memories and everything. And being out on the farm, being in nature, God has given us that to really help us respect life. And so you can teach so many lessons to your children and your grandchildren. Please, if you have grandchildren, because Asher, our son, again, like Rusty said, he actually was an infant when they started being master gardeners, and his grandmother had a little wagon cart. She'd put a pad on it and lay him down and pull him out in the wagon while she was working in the garden and stuff. And then they did a lot of work for the local park. And as he got bigger, he got to know the people at the park. He'd go and help them and do all of those kinds of things. And so, instilling some of those skills, whether they use them at some point, as children growing up or later in life, like we're coming back to for me, God will put that in there. And then you can talk about his scripture, because Jesus uses so many parables and things that relate to agriculture and farming. And so there's so many things. It's really planting those seeds of truth and beauty in their hearts that God's given. And one thing, we've done some nature studies. We're a homeschooling family. And so when we've gone out at times, I use a little jeweler's loop, because there are some things on flowers that you can't see unless you have a little jeweler's loop. And on spider lilies, I don't know if any of y'all know this, but if you'll take a jeweler's loop and look at their little petals, there are sparkles on those petals. And with that jeweler's loop, it's just such a beautiful little picture of God's glory and stuff. And so with that, you can show the children and talk about, God's glory in that way too. So, it's all progress versus perfection, and just getting them out there and getting out yourselves in your gardens and working and everything, and just being patient, because the Lord's been patient with us. So I want to leave you with a couple of different quotes. This is one from Ralph Waldo Emerson. It says, "Never lose an opportunity of seeing anything beautiful, for beauty is God's handwriting." And then also a friend of mine, she has said that our role isn't to force growth, but to plant the seeds of truth and beauty, trusting God to bring them to life in our children's and grandchildren's hearts. So really just, use all the wisdom God's given you with all of the things related to gardens and planting and animals and nature and everything, and just bring your children and grandchildren along as much as you can. So thank you.
I want to just tie it all up with this one last thing. Ratatouille, I don't know if y'all have ever seen that movie. One of my favorites. One of the lines in that movie is, anyone can cook, right? And Remy goes through the whole movie and figuring out what that really means. And the reality is anybody can do this, right? You don't have to have 10 acres or 20 acres or 2 acres or 1 acre. I mean, we've got some books that show a layout for a homestead on a quarter acre. Anybody can do it. Y'all can do it in your backyard. You've proved it. And I think as a culture, as a society, we would be much better off if we all started doing something, whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be huge, it doesn't have to be for other people, it'd be for you and your family. And if we would all start doing that, I think not only would our planet be in a better place, and I'm not an environmentalist guy, I'm a southern redneck, but our world would be in a better place, the land would certainly be in a better place, and I think overall we all would be in a better place. And so I want to leave that with you. You know, it's a family, it's a multi-generational thing, it's our kids, it's our grandkids, it's our neighbors, but don't just say, I can't do this because I have room. Or don't say I don't have time. You got time to do other things, right? This is what's more important. And just we all can do this. So I just encourage us to do that. So thank you.
Yeah.
Right on.
And here are some of the books that we've been looking at and stuff too. And he said he read Salatin in a couple of days. That was doing Audible, so he was audio listening to it.
It's fair.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Joel Salatin, Kim had mentioned Joel Salatin and Rusty as well. I mentioned Joel Salatin last night, especially Kim at his book, Everything I Want to Do Is Illegal.
That's right.
And so great stuff. Thank y'all so much. Very encouraging. And especially in light of the three speakers so far, I will say we're about to break for lunch, and all the ingredients that are in lunch today are from the industrial food complex. I'm sorry to say. I did try to, when I was planning this brainstorm, how could I'm not there. I'm not there yet. But so, it is what it is. And so we're going to break for lunch. And let me say, we're going to pray in a second. We'll break for lunch.